everybody.
Right? Yeah.
The ducks, everyone. Let me see what. Let me put it. Pescalipoca. Can you turn on, please, brother?
Dope. That's a dope piece you got right there.
Oh yeah, this is I got it from my wife when we got married.
Oh, bet.
It's a wedding band. This is Jade, and then this is the Coyote. So my name is Segep Omequatli. So Segep is Yurok for Coyote,
Okay.
which is why this is. And Omequatli is Nahuatl for two eagle.
Two eagle, yeah, for sure. Ome, two eagle, Cuautli.
So I'm Coyote two eagle.
That's dope, man. Dope. And how do you say it in Yurok?
Segep.
Segep.
Eagle in Yurok is Pergish.
Okay, dope. So,
But my wife is Mashika. My two daughters, they're Mashika and Yaqui, because my wife is also Yaqui.
dope.
And because of that, you know, I want to live in both cultures for my daughters, so
Yeah.
that they grow up with all their medicine. And so through that is me also learning the ways of the Southern tribe.
Right.
And so they do the names, the Miguel Angel, and I have an interview on Drum Circle News with Miguel Angel. So everybody should go watch. He goes into deep into the history of the tribes in Mexico and the caste system in Spain, and through that we talk about well, so just to backtrack, he led my wedding ceremony, and he's the one that gave me the Nahuatl name.
Okay, dope. That's what's up, man.
My father gave me Segep, and so together, you know,
Dope. Yeah, that's important, you know, growing up in both cultures because, you know, you're learning a whole new culture and you're a part of it. You're becoming a part of it through your wife, through your baby. So that's dope, man.
Did you always get raised like with your indigenous roots or what?
I didn't. I grew up just, you know, knowing I'm Mexican, being proud of being Mexican. But when I would, like, you know, I'll pull up to the flea markets right here in the IE, and I always see the T-shirts with like the Aztec or the Mexica graphics on them. You know, a lot of the Chicano culture uses a lot of that, you know, that art on the clothing, and I was always called to it because I was like, damn, like I was like, you know, like I felt like I could really identify with it. And, you know, I always tell people, man, it's a calling because I know a lot of people that are my people that aren't called to this road. It's like they know, yeah, you know, I get it. Yeah, we're indigenous, we know, but they're not called into learning more, unlearning, challenging the systems that, you know,
Can I get the thing over here?
challenging the systems that oppress our people, displace our people, cause family separations, jailers, etc. But nah, man, I didn't grow up knowing that I was indigenous, but I grew up eating corn. I grew up eating tortillas, chiles, you know, the three sisters, without actually farming it ourselves, you know, just because we have an access to like a corner market. But I tell people, man, all the time, as Chicanos or as Mexican people from south of the border, we were eating corn before Europeans arrived. During our fight with them, during our fight with conquistadors, we were eating corn. Once we got independence from Spain, still eating corn. And even displaced after the US invasion of like the Southwest, you know, we're still in the barrio, in the neighborhood, on the block. We might not be on the, you know, in the motherland, on the soil, like practicing all the agriculture in its original form, but we're still eating corn because we still have tortillas on our table, which is it's an ancient food. I go to Stater Brothers and like tortillas are in the foreign food section, but it's not foreign to here. You know, that's actually, it was here before everything else, right? It's thousands of years old, you know, that corn. So I grew up practicing indigenous traditions via the table, via the kitchen. But I grew up speaking Spanish and English, two languages from Europe, you know?
It's important that you notice that because that food, and then you mentioned soil and agriculture, those are all ways that we lived in relationship to the land. Right. And so it's deeper than just like, I need food for sustenance. Right. We treated, and natives here, the tribal natives, we still do this. And this is a part of the revival of the, you know, the Chicano and recognizing that you guys are indigenous. Part of that culture is that this land is our relative. Yeah. And this soil is alive. These trees are alive. The same way that these geese behind us are alive, and there's someone to have a relationship with. And so when you're planting these plants, it's your song and your prayer. It goes into the food. 100%. And then and then when you're cooking the food, your prayers are going in, and when you're making the food, and you can taste that, and it brings you healing, because food is medicine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's love, man, because, you know, my grandma, when she cooks, my mom, when she cooks, they're usually singing or like moving around that movement, right? And that's love, you know. Our people may not see it as a prayer, right? Like growing up, speaking for myself, they may not see it as a prayer as they're cooking, but it's a lot of love that's being put into the food via the singing, via the being in the good mood, tending to the grandkids while they're there, asking for something, continuing to cook. So it's a lot of love that's put into that, man.
It's even the thought, like when your grandma or your mom's cooking, and because they're making it for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so they're thinking about you with that love.
Right.
You know,
right,
that's
definitely.
medicine. That's our medicine.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm really happy to have you today, and we jumped right into the conversation. But I want to say thank you, Drum Circle News, for watching us. Today we have Jaguar Arreola. How do you say that? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Jaguar Arreola. Yep, it's good.
All right, with the R.
Yeah.
Arreola. Did I get it?
Oh, you got it. Huh?
Hey, there we go. So look, he's an activist. He's an artist, a community leader. He's a teacher. He's super important. He's very important to the community. So I'm really happy that you're here. So what's important is the awakening of the indigenous giant. And through that is not only your community remembering and recalling and letting go of that shame and embracing your indigenous roots, but it's also our community, the tribal communities, for us letting go of the colonizers' oppression, and through these systems, these federal and state recognized systems that have kept us separate. Because that's really at the core of it, these blood quantum laws and this federal recognition. That's where people are like, oh, you're not native, you're not indigenous, because you don't got the federal recognition. But we don't need to be recognized by these Western systems for us to understand that we're brothers and sisters.
Right.
And so I wanted to come here today and like have this conversation publicly and put that out there that we are unifying. There are people like me on the tribal side that are recognizing you and bringing you into our community. And then on your side, that there are people that are remembering that they're indigenous and they're proud of it.
Yeah, man, I agree. You know, we're sharing songs, we're sharing ceremonies, we're sharing conversations, pláticas, and you know, and there's a lot of sisters and brothers from your side, you know, from the federally recognized tribal side, who have been embracing us. And I know, like, I've been around a lot of my Chicano elders who walked with AIM back in the days, you know, who were organizing with AIM, went to the res. They were that bridge among a lot of the raza, a lot of the Mexicanos who didn't speak English, because, you know, as Chicanos, we grew up here, like, speaking English, knowing English, and a lot of us speak Spanish. So we're able to bridge from the Mexicano, from the motherland, to the Chicano, and we can bring people from the res together and, you know, build community and resistance. And when you build resistance, you build power. So Chicanos were at Wounded Knee, we were at Standing Rock, we were at Alcatraz, and we've been in community with our indigenous relatives, Turtle Island, man, federally recognized and not federally recognized, because to your point, I don't need a tribal ID to tell me that I'm indigenous. I know I'm indigenous, I grew up, as we were talking, I grew up eating that maize, that corn, that maize, and, I grew up with those ways of, even though I was removed through layers of colonization and layers of violence and displacement, as Chicanos, we got layers of colonization on top of us, as other communities do, some of us don't even want to admit we're Mexican, because there's a lot of anti-Mexican sentiment in this country, right, where being Mexican is seen as being less than. But what is anti-Mexican sentiment? Really, it's anti-Indigenous sentiment. That's what it's rooted in. Because when you tell someone, oh, in a disrespectful way, oh, you look very Mexican, what they really mean is you look very Indigenous. That's what they're trying to tell you. They're saying that usually the Mexicano, the Chicano, the Mexican is phenotypically Indigenous, right? And I use phenotypically in air quotes because we all look
the
different.
Latin term.
Right. We all look different based on our experience with colonization. Like I got comrades that are Afro-Indigenous, man. You see them, they're visibly black, right? They're visibly black. I have a lot of raza, a lot of Chicanos, Chicana homegirls. They're very, very light-skinned, they're fair-skinned. They could be white passing. Nonetheless, they're Indigenous, right? And we look like that because of our experience with colonialism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Northern Indians,
Yeah.
because I come from Northern California, Yurok. I think it really has to do with the fact that it's not it does get sunny in the summer.
Yeah.
But our skin types, as soon as you mix in with someone who's white, our skin automatically goes white. Like my dad, he's dark. I have an interview with him. Look it up. It's Edward Horse Aubrey, and yeah, he
Salute.
yeah, he's pretty dark. He's darker than you, low key.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But then
yeah.
my mom is white, and I got her skin, which I'm proud to, because I love my mom. So I never be disappointed with my
Salute
skin.
mom. Yeah, salute mom. Shout out mom for sure.
And yeah, so you talked about AIM. My grandfather, AWOC Calvin Aubrey, he was an AIM leader.
All right. Okay.
He went to Wounded Knee. Chile.
But
It's important that you mention Abya, and I appreciate that because, the prophecy of the eagle and the condor is happening right now. What had to come first was the prophecy of the condor and the guacamayo, which is a macaw.
that's right.
And so elders from Colombia and in the Amazon, they came together, they went and they did the ceremony at the top of the glaciers. And I have an interview about it. I just posted Katie Conlin. She's a Nat Geo explorer. She happened to be on there. And I'm trying to put together funds to get those elders to come up to Yurok country where we're reviving the Condor. There's 25 condors that we've released into the wild up there. Well, this ceremony that they did was supposed to be the symbolism that of the unification of South America, the Condor, from the tip of Chile all the way up into Colombia and Ecuador and Peru.
Yeah.
And so there's another organization called Home for Humanity. They have the One Home Journey. Shout out Rama and Alexander. And I sent you the event that's going to happen tomorrow,
That's
the Abya event.
Yeah, yeah.
They just traveled all the way through South America, all the way down to the tip of Chile,
Right.
and stopped in Bolivia. They helped them recover bones from a museum. That's what they do. They specialize in going to indigenous communities around the world and helping them gain power and as far as their voice.
Right.
Because they have UN channels, United Nations channels.
Right.
One of their co-chairs is Youssef Mahmoud, which is he's undersecretary to the Peace Division, United Nations.
Right.
So we're all the way. We got leaders in the political conversation all the way up to the United Nations. And this is a symbolism where they're having these events, meeting with these indigenous people of South America. Their next stop is to come to Ashland, Oregon, and visit me and recognize Drum Circle News, recognize my organization, Tribal Workforce Trade Association. We're uniting the Native American workers, putting them and centralizing the people outside of the tribal government and representing them, doing economic development across all four corners. Through that, we're gonna be connecting the eagle.
Right. And that's the work. That's the power of the worker, homie. Because the workers keep it running. Without the worker, none of this keeps going. And it's dope that you're amplifying the voice of the native worker specifically. Which is silenced. Silenced, and it's not as amplified. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So salute to you, man, and thank you for the work you're doing with amplifying the voices of natives in labor, in the labor force. That's dope. But speaking of uniting different indigenous communities, from Panama, Colombia, Peru, up here, etc., it reminds me of the Peace and Dignity Journeys run. You're probably familiar with it, right?
Yeah, I interviewed Antonio Carrasco. If you guys will watch that.
There you go.
His father helped start it. He was the one that wrote the grants to put that together. Yeah,
man. See all that work, all that labor. I'll say it's not unnoticed, homie. It's so important, and I've known many people who have participated in it. A lot of Chicanos, a lot of Mexican indigenous peoples, Mexicas, Purépechas, people from the different indigenous communities of south of the colonial border who have participated. I participated back in 2016, and that was kind of that was around the time I began my Red Road journey. My journey back to the fire, back to the circle, was around 2016. And 10 years ago now, but I did that run, and we're able to build that staff. It was my understanding that staff has been all over the continent. So holding that staff is it's a real blessing, and it's all related. You got the work that's political, where we have a seat at the UN, we have a seat at these different conferences all over the world. Representing the specific indigenous struggles here in Turtle Island, Abya, but also the local, right? The local runs, the labor, the labor force work. All of it is related, man. All of it is related. And
with something that just happened last month, there's a Supreme Court ruling, and it had to do with agriculture, where they recognized Native Americans. So 47 million acres has been returned to natives here in California, and so. Through that is the first domino to start reviving. Our treaties have been violated. Our lands have been encroached upon. And so what has been promised to us through the government contracts has been smaller and smaller, and we're slowly getting that land back. 47 million acres is really just a drop in the bucket of how much land has been stolen from us. And on top of that, through that comes the recognition that we are owners of that land. Which means that we now co-manage projects with natural resources. So the same way when capital improvement projects come down, horizontal projects, vertical projects, and you have to go through BLM, you have to go through natural resources, you have to go through fisheries, all these 26 different agencies, they're the owners, they're the ones that get money from Congress, from the state, and then they bid that out to contractors who then do the work. Native Americans, we're now owners on those projects. And so that is just the revival of the fact that we can create our own systems, our own sovereign systems.
And the credit goes to the organizers, never to the colonial government, but to the people that fought, that petitioned, that organized, and did all the other shit outside of the petitioning and the frontline work, right? The direct action and the civil disobedience and everything else that comes along with resistance and decolonization. So salute to all the organizers who've been a part of that, man. I mean, you know, it's just like when we get some type of a reform or something going on for people incarcerated, right? All of our people that are incarcerated, whether you're indigenous, black, Polynesian, all oppressed people, you know, poor whites, anybody that's oppressed inside the system, you know, credit never goes to the government that said, all right, you know, we're going to give a few more rights. It goes to the people that never stopped resisting, never stopped pushing. So salute to all the organizers and activists for sure.
Yeah, I want to say a big part of that is the recognition of the Southern brothers and sisters, the indigenous workers, the migrant workers. So what we want to do is we want to start including migrant workers so we can start putting meaningful workforce pathways. You know, what's going on right now is not right.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to be able to create a system where we can undo the injustice that is happening.
Definitely.
And that's why I look at you and you know, I look up to a lot of the movements that you do. It makes me proud. I see what you're doing, and it makes me like, wow, we still, our youngsters, and I'm a youngster too, we're stepping up.
Yeah, Mando.
We're stepping up, we're making shit happen, and I'm glad that I have an ally and a brother out there that's making that happen. Yeah. Could you tell me how you got started on that journey?
Yeah. So, you know, like I mentioned, you know, I grew up being very proud of being Mexican, being proud of being brown, you know, like we use brown pride as like, you know, as like this term. And brown pride comes from indigenous pride, you know what I'm saying? Like that's where our brown pride comes from. It comes from our roots to this continent and this soil. But I used to be a part of this, I used to rock with this, shout out to my people from Chica. It's called Chicano and Indigenous Community for Culturally Conscious Advocacy and Action. They're a really long-standing community organization here in the Inland Empire, Yuhaviatam territory, San Bernardino. Shout out to San Manuel natives. But yeah, Chicano indigenous people getting together and fighting, resisting, organizing. And it was through, I got like you could say my journey, into decolonization efforts in support of migrants, in support of people that are being separated from their families. It came through them. So that's how I kicked off my journey in that realm. But, marching, protesting, canvassing, workshops. We got the comrades doing Migrant Watch out here right now. So, you know, I'm in real close proximity to a lot of organizers right now that we have our groups, right? These affinity groups, we can call them, where, yeah, they're keeping an eye on the Migra, on the ice pigs and all that, and the border patrol that's creeping up on indigenous people, man, separating families. Not just indigenous people, any immigrant. You know, you could be a European immigrant, a Polynesian immigrant, anybody being targeted by ICE, but in majority.
But let's be real, who they're targeting.
Yeah, in majority, it's indigenous people, man. It's Mexicans, Salvadorians, Guatemalans, Central Americans. Yeah, the people that are categorized as Latinos, you know, come from a Spanish-speaking country. Yeah, you're right, man. Let's keep it real. They are. It's straight up racial profiling. If they, you know, the Supreme Court passed a law where, you know, if you're driving a truck that has like some tools that look like you might do a job that stereotypically a lot of indigenous people do, like all the labor, cutting grass, shit like that, construction, you're gonna be targeted, and you can be racially profiled and pulled over, and it's disgusting, man. But you know, the people are resisting, and this one thing I've known is that as long as we've been oppressed, and as long as you know, our people have been oppressed, we've always resisted. We never stop resisting. That's what's important, is that we're not just victims, we're survivors, but we always fought back, and we are fighting back right now. People are organizing. A lot of people that I would consider normies, that don't care about politics, don't care about, you know, anything like that. They're apolitical. A lot of them are turning up right now, and they're getting involved. And, you know, it's better late than never. You know, I'm very tolerant to that, you know, because I understand, you know, the confusion that's put out there by the system. Drugs, alcohol, you know,
The Catholic Church.
all yeah, you know, right.
Whiteness, the
Right.
caste system, honestly, like really is like wholeheartedly still embedded in these communities.
Right.
You know, black and brown communities have always been oppressed.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
indigenous was actually lower than the black community in the caste system in Spain. And so the higher you get in this system, the closer you get to European whiteness, the higher in society you are. And so just for safety, and this happens in the native community too, you know, our grandparents didn't teach our parents the history. And because if you didn't know your history and you didn't know who you were, it was easier for you to become white.
Right.
And if you can become white, then you can you have a chance in society. It's not dangerous for you.
That's social mobility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, even here, man, and I tell people, look, Spanish is not an indigenous language, but it is a racialized language. You are targeted for speaking Spanish. The majority of people that, like a large majority of indigenous people only speak Spanish. They don't speak an indigenous language anymore. They don't speak Nahuatl, they don't speak Otomi, they don't speak Totonaco, Zapoteco, none of those languages. Those languages are very, very spoken still in a lot of territories in Abya Yala, but for a lot of the migrants who have been detribalized, displaced out of their native community, a lot only speak Spanish. So it is a racialized language, you know, because of that, I tell people the U.S. government also had laws where they banned Spanish speaking because, again, it was part of speaking Spanish at a certain point in history. It was anti-Mexican sentiment, right? And again, going back to it, anti-Mexican sentiment is really just anti-indigenous sentiment because Mexicanos, Chicanos were lynched all over Texas, New Mexico, California, Arizona, all these areas that is indigenous land. All of it, you know, is Diné, it's Apache, it's all these territories, right? Salute to all the Southwest natives. But a lot of the Chicanos and Mexicanos that were lynched there, Cahuilla, shout out to the Cahuillas, they were lynched there because they spoke Spanish.
We gotta
right?
we gotta shout them all out.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. Pomo, everybody, man.
Yeah,
Pomo,
yeah.
the Yurok, everybody, man. Your people.
Well,
So,
I'm talking about right there on the border, you know.
oh yeah. The Oldam, you know, T.O., Tono Oldam relatives. Yeah, man, the Yaqui, you know, all of them for sure. You know, a lot of nations separated by that colonial wall. You know, split in half. One group became undocumented immigrants, and then the other was forced into poverty and oppression, right? On this side of the border, Native American, indigenous, but just at the bottom of everything in society. And
Yeah, what's cool, one of my favorite things about the Kumeyaay, they're over there in San Diego by the border, is they actually burned down the Catholic Church over there, the mission that had started oppressing the people over there. That's an amazing. So shout out to Kumeyaay. Shout out my boy Keith Vasquez, Native Youth Foundation.
Right. There was a specific warrior. I can't recall the name. So shout out to the Kumeyaay. But yeah, I know there's a warrior that fought like obviously like there was a lot of revolts everywhere. But it was a specific male. I know they got Pope in New Mexico. It's my understanding. I gotta circle back to it. But yeah, shout out to everybody that resisted against Catholic violence. You know.
Yeah, one of my things for your community, you know, it's not exactly my place, but I want to give my little outside insight. Is I feel like Hispanic, Latino, you guys got to stop using that.
Yeah, that's valid. It's a
Latino, Latin, that's white. Hispanic, that's Spanish. That's European. That actually literally means the European Spanish.
Right.
And then Latino was kind of like the progression of that, but it's still Latin.
I get it. Yeah, we need terms that are that center our specific identities. I hear you. I don't use them. You know, I don't use them. I don't use Hispanic. With Latino, it's complex because I don't use Latino. You know, I use Chicano. I use Indigenous. I use Brown. I use Native. You know what I'm saying? Otomi, Purepecha. That's my ancestry. You know, so my people are Purepecha from Michoacan and Otomi from Guanajuato. And the Otomi, we had a complex relationship with the Mexica. The Purepecha had a very complex relationship with the Mexica. They're mortal enemies, rivals, but honorable enemies, right? Like, you know, it's like a Comanche and an Apache and a Dene, you know, like there's rivalries among our people, but it's not colonization, it's not genocide, it's not slavery,
yeah.
it's not that, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of people try to use this warring tribes concept,
Right.
like we're like running around half naked with sticks and bows.
It's a white supremacist talking point.
That's
bro.
not true.
That's,
yeah,
100%.
really, we're diplomats.
Right, yeah.
What people don't
absolutely.
know, like if the French love to take credit for democracy,
Right.
but the democracy created here in America, that comes from the Iroquois Confederation.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
native. That Constitution was
Right.
inspired by our systems.
Right.
We were the diplomats. We taught them how to engage in diplomacy.
Yeah, to build, and but to your point, so it's miseducation. That's what it is, you know, and just like anything else, like that's why. So I'm an ethnic studies major. I'm a Chicano studies major and ethnic studies major. That's why ethnic studies, having native studies, having black studies, Chicano, etc., is so important, because you're not gonna get these results of people who don't know what they are, right? Using labels that don't fit, right? Using labels of the slave owners, right? Of the slave masters, of the colonizers and the oppressors. So this is why education is so important to me. Like this is why I'm in the teaching field. You know, I'm en route to be a college professor right now, but and you won't get traitors, right, among our people that are like vendidos, sellouts, coconuts, Uncle Tomahawks, whatever we want to call them.
That's a good one. I never heard that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start using Uncle Tomahawk.
Yeah, that. You know, you won't get those if you have education from K through 12, whether we want to use their system
That's the
or
real
not.
history.
Right, real history and history education that's socially or that's emotionally and culturally supportive. Again, from out of diapers to, you know, I guess college or whatever we choose to do. So education is so important. That's how you don't get. I stopped using Hispanic once I got to Chicano studies. It was there where I learned. Oh, it was through that I learned. Oh, you know what? I'm actually not Latino. I'm not Hispanic. I never really used those. I always just said, oh, I'm Mexican or I'm Chicano. But again, that is how I got there. It was through that education. But I'm already like 19 years
saying you're
old.
Mexican, even though, is like a native who comes from a tribe saying that I'm American. Like
Right.
I am American, but
I get
it
it.
doesn't really describe me at the end of the day. Like if someone asks me what I am, I'm gonna say I'm Yurok.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. Being as specific as possible is better. A lot of Mexicans don't know exactly what they are, like what specific community or nation.
But you could find that. You ask your grandma, you know, what
Right.
pueblo,
Right.
what pueblo does my family come from,
I
even
get
if
it.
she doesn't know. And
Yeah.
then that's true. The Yurok
Okay.
tribe didn't. I mean, we had settlers that came and there were slaughterings. It was the gold.
Right.
80% of the
Right.
natives got killed during the gold rush. But yeah,
So,
not to the
like,
late 1800s.
There's centuries of I guess
untouched.
1500, yes, being untouched, right? So we've been Catholic since 1520. Shit, I mean, if you count, you know, of course, shout out to the Caribbean relatives, Tainos, Arawaks. I mean, 1492, right? Like, so it's many centuries. That's a lot of winters of. That's fucking 400 winters of being Catholic, being now Spanish, Puerto Riqueño, or you know, all these different labels that have came from that. So it's a lot more confusion, but again, it just takes education. You feel me? It just takes education, and it takes
So what would be the pathway for a Chicano who wants to understand and figure out what tribal nation they come from?
you know, I encourage people to
Being that because that's your degree, I feel like you have some insight
for
right
sure.
there.
Yeah, I do, and it looks different for a lot of people. You're gonna want to, like you're saying, man, you're gonna want to ask your elders, if you have elders, if you have grandparents, you know, what part of Mexico we're from, what kind of labor did we do, what did great grandma do, what did great grandpa do. Sometimes a lot of these what people did for a living is kind of can guide you and direct you into maybe like you know, there's a lot of you got to look at the pre-colonial maps, you got to look at the contemporary indigenous maps of territories in Mexico. And it's gonna look different, man. It's gonna look different because some of the indigenous communities, just like you got all the tribes that got pushed over to Oklahoma area, right? That were originally
the Trail of Tears.
Trail of Tears. A lot of them are originally from the south of the U.S., right? So-called U.S. A lot of nations and communities are like that in Mexico as well. Not just Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras, for example.
Like migration, slavery, that kind of stuff.
That type of shit, you know. And then people just leave their community sometimes just to get work in the city. You know, a lot of people are not worried about identity, especially a lot of people here, man. People are just working to survive. So we got to find a way to get that cultural education for sure. Slip it in. It's just as important as labor organizing and all that.
That's why Miguel Angel pushes more of a pan-Indigenous movement where he recognizes himself as Nahuatl.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Because that's like the unifying language.
Yeah. It's one of my academic elders. He's a Mexicano professor. He's a fluent speaker of Nahuatl. He reads, writes, and speaks it. He's one of the only so-called mestizos, right? Which is a caste racist term. I don't use it, but it's for context. If people are going to listen, there's going to be people listening to this that are probably coming from a perspective where like, oh, but we are mestizo. I don't claim that because to me, that means I'm a bastard from Spain. I'm Spain's bastard. I'm Spain's property. I don't use that. But for context, all right, so this gentleman is a Mexicano. He doesn't know what indigenous community he comes from, but he reads, speaks, and writes Nahuatl. He goes to the conferences with only Nahuatl speakers that grew up in Nahuatl pueblos, who descend from those, nations. And, he always says it's a lengua franca, meaning it was a language of commerce, trade. So even if you weren't a descendant of Nahuatl speakers, it was in your best interest for your tribe, your nation, your pueblo to learn Nahuatl because you're going to be able to trade with everybody. You're going to be able to communicate and build, and you're going to be able to get around more. So it's a lengua franca. I don't know.
It's one of the oldest languages, and it actually comes from the tribes up north, and then through the migration of through all four corners.
Uto-Aztecan umbrella, So my people are not Nahuatl speakers, but so one side of the Otomi did learn how to speak Nahuatl for the same reason that I'm sharing, but Otomi was our language, and then Purepecha in Michoacan is Purepecha. It's my understanding some people correlate it to Quechua in the Andean mountains, so there's some speculation that the Purepecha people may have came from the Andean mountains, which just shows more migration, right? Like we weren't just in, like Mexico was our last stop, but we were originally in like Peru and Bolivia, those areas. So
what a lot of people don't know is the highway systems here in America were built off of our trade routes.
There you go.
We had really complex systems of trade routes.
Right. Yeah, man, it's real complex. Trading jade for
obsidian,
sage, obsidian, turquoise, quetzal feathers, macaw feathers,
abalone shells. That's what our tribe would trade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do appreciate a pan-Indigenous perspective as well, because like danza azteca. My partner's a danzante, right? My lady, she's a danzante, and that's an intertribal. It's Mexica, it's Azteca, it's Chichimeca. But nonetheless, I done met homies that are Apache. I done met homies that are Cahuilla. I have a good homie that's Cahuilla. He's a danzante. He loves his culture. He knows his bird songs. Nonetheless, he got called to it, right? Because he grew up in the barrio, in the city, like outside the res. So he was called to it by the Chicanos, and they embraced him. And it's that Mexica, Toltec.
That's kind of like with the Aglala Lakotas and the Sundance brothers.
Right.
So a lot of people go and they'll become sun dancers even though they come from a different place.
Yeah.
I think it is important for us to have those community circles where it's we can all come together and practice something together. Right. But it's also important to get specific of where you came from and what your ancestors did, so you can walk in the footsteps of your ancestors.
Yeah, 100%.
But that community is important because that's how we meet each other. That's how we meet our wives.
Right.
That's what we used to do up in Northern California.
Right.
That's all Indian country. Once you get past everything's Indian country, really. But once you get past the bay, everything, all those forests, all those mountains, those are all tribes. The 3 largest tribes in California belong up there, and there's a bunch of other small ones. And what we would do is we all have similar ceremonies, and we would come together our villages if we shared the same river, because our rivers were our highways. So everyone who shared rivers, they would come together for one event. And then through that, that's how you meet your wife. Because everybody in your village you're probably related to.
Right.
The village next door, you're probably related to them.
Right.
So we needed to have these, so that's how we, come together. We share each other's medicine.
For sure.
We find great leaders. If we have a great leader from this village,
Right.
and they have a great leader from over there, that's a woman and a man, then those two, they'll come together, and then that's how you create, head families.
Off top, man, and like circling back to what you said about learning, it's good that we link up and have something that we do together as indigenous people, right? Just, I guess, using that umbrella as indigenous people, as native people from Abya Turtle Island, but then getting into our specifics. What did our ancestors specifically practice? My wife, my partner, she just enrolled in a Nahuatl class, speaking the Nahuatl variant from El Salvador, where her mother's from. So she's probably gonna be the first person to relearn that language a couple generations. It's been a minute since somebody spoke that language in her family. Again, because the Salvadorian government soldiers were slaughtering anyone that spoke Nahuatl under the instruction of U.S. imperialism, because the U.S. corporations took over El Salvador. It's a banana republic, and the coffee was owned by the United States Empire. So the Salvadorian government betraying its own people. A lot of these people are indigenous themselves, man. Not the government leaders. They were mostly Europeans, European ancestry. But a lot of the soldiers, they're also indigenous, but they betrayed their own people to get wealth and greed, right? And they slaughtered their own people. But to my point, people haven't spoken indigenous language in her family from that side. It's been a minute, it's been a few generations. So she's rehealing that, rehealing that connection specific to the language that her mother's side spoke, right? It's not Nahuatl from Mexico. It's not Nahuatl that was spoken maybe here in some parts of the Southwest. If there was a variant, maybe Utah, but nonetheless, it's the same umbrella, and it's dope to see her, get on that journey, man. I mean,
so that is beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing that. My wife is on a similar journey. She grew up in LA, and then her family, they come from Tenochtitlan. They come from Mexico.
Mexico City.
And so where the sun pyramids are.
Right. Yeah, that's man, I mean,
and they're going through that revival, and they do dance Azteca as well.
Right.
And they're always over there at the Buena Park events that happen. And actually, my mother-in-law helped donate to bail you out when you were going through that.
I appreciate that.
Because that's a tight community. Everybody knows each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when that happened, and with the other brother that you've been standing up for and talking about, the whole community felt that, and everybody came together and wanted to support you.
Yeah, and you know what, man? I appreciate that, and shout out to your mother-in-law. Definitely blessings to her, and shout out to all the Danza Azteca community. Again, it's an intertribal movement, still rooted in Tenochtitlan, where your wife has her origins, and where your baby has her origins as well. So, it's and the Mexica left so much, man. The Mexica left so much, for people to rebuild from, and I'm glad that people have Danza Azteca. My lady's a participant. She's not a Mexica descendant, but she is a Nahuatl speaker descendant. She does come from Nahuatl culture, and shout to the homie Eden Alex Enamorado. He's still busted doing time. He's actually not too far. Man, he's one city over. We're in the city of Fontana right now, which is Quiche, Tongva, Gabrielino land. And he's in Cucamonga. Rancho Cucamonga. Cucamonga is actually a Tongva word. It's my understanding, it comes from the word Cucumonga. And he's busted in the West Valley county jail right now. And he's been in there. He's approaching 3 years in December now. So again, for standing up for street vendors, majority of the street vendors in our hood, in our neighborhoods, they're indigenous migrants, man. Some of them are undocumented, some of them are not. Nonetheless, they were, working to survive an honest living, which goes back to our Meso-indigenous roots, you know, and all over Turtle Island, like vending, the flea markets. That's a tradition that comes from our people, man. Like setting up a stand and, you know, sharing with people your traditions, your food. That's what we were fighting, and like we were fighting for the rights of street vendors, because in the city of Fontana, the mayor banned street vending. She's very anti-Indigenous. She spews a lot of anti-Mexican rhetoric, you know what I'm saying? And so the people stood up, myself included. You know, we organized, we went to the city council meetings. We filled those city council meetings up, man, 200 heads leaving public comments. It's really challenging getting people together to come and do that, to like, you know, take the time off away from their family to come and, you know, advocate and support.
Yeah.
So it was pre invasion of the ICE raids from last year, you know, like this is back in 2023. We were supporting migrants and street vendors, and again, also standing up against police brutality in the area, you know, where a lot of gente, a lot of brown people, black relatives were being brutalized by law enforcement, man, and it's not right, you know what I mean? So you got to stand on shit, and it's important to support those justice initiatives.
Yeah.
So free him. Shit.
Free the homie.
Free Eden Alex Enamorado. He's still doing time. He hasn't had trial. You know, people can follow his Instagram. It's ran by his wife, and they have his legal
What's
fees.
the Instagram handle?
It's called Enamorado Backup. Enamorado Backup. So yeah, check that out, man, and you guys can donate to his legal fees.
So before we wrap up, because I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah, we got a little more time.
Yeah, I was really hoping that we could talk about your men's circles.
Yeah.
And after, I'd like to introduce you to my nephew Raymond. I'd really like to get him over there.
Oh yeah, off top. Yeah, we got to do that. Definitely, we'll bring Raymond over. So we do these men's circles at The Pulse. The Pulse is a community space in downtown San Bernardino. Uhavia Tamlan, shout out to San Manuel's. We run the men's circle there, and we do it, you know, it's meant to, we have a lot of brothers that are on their sobriety journey. So a lot of brothers in recovery. It's not your traditional like recovery, like that the system kind of will try to charge you money for, you know, and like, it's free, it's for the community, it's for all the males in the community. Anybody's welcome. You don't have to be Indigenous. You know, we done had brothers that are African ancestry. We done had some Muslim homies, Indian, and you know, some white brothers come through. But yeah, mainly it is mostly brown people from south of the border, Chicanos, Indigenous people, Central Americans.
And what are you guys talking about over there? What does the program look like?
So we do it off of cargas y regalos. A carga is something that's been weighing you down. Like, so you share what's been weighing you down. We sit in circle. We have an altar set up with the smoke burning. You know, our 4 directions set up. You know, some corn. We share some of this information that was shared to us with the other brothers, so that, you know, if they want to bring some coffee to the altar, or anything, a picture of a loved one. You know, maybe a homie is trying to get custody back of his daughter or his son in the circle. So, you know, they'll put it on the side of the children's direction. So we share that knowledge that was shared to us. And, you know, we share our carga, what's been weighing on you. You share it. No one's there to give you advice. You just speak it. Because as males, as Indigenous men, as Native men, we don't really have those outlets to be vulnerable, right? To share. You know, most of the time when we need to cope, it's drugs, alcohol, violence against ourselves, violence against the other Native brothers, or violence
against
Native
Native women.
Women, gender violence.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
100%. So gender violence and you know, just self-destruction. So we need those spaces to cope. We do it once a month. It's every first Wednesday of the month in downtown San Bernardino. It's through the IE Cultura Collective. So stands for Inland Empire Cultura Collective on Instagram. I'm one of the facilitators. Shout out to my homie Ismael, the homie Christian. You know, they hold it down with me. And, you know, good brothers right there, man. So any males in the community want to come through. Again, you don't got to know anything about Indigenous culture. You know, the way we present, the way it's been told to me, these are Toltec ways. You know, so even pre anything, man, like one of the oldest understandings and wisdom and knowledge of our people. and you know, we share that carga. What's been weighing on you? Oh, it's been weighing on me. I just got fired from my job, man. You know, I'm going through it. I want to put that here. So just speaking it into existence, having other gentlemen hear it. Everyone's silent. You know, we got the copal, the tree sap, sometimes sage, sometimes palo santo burning. You know, it really puts that love in the air and that seriousness. The next time we hit the circle, or the next lap around the circle, we say something we're grateful for, a regalo, a gift. My regalo is, I'm here with the homie on this good day, you know, surrounded by creation, Mother Earth, you know, all my relatives, you know, insects, four-leggeds, all that. You just share something you're grateful for, you know, because there's always something to be grateful for. So, you know, we try to leave on that positivity, chin held high. You know, a lot of homies, a lot of comrades, brothers will share, yo, I'm 4 weeks sober. I ain't been sober for 10 years like this. So like, I haven't touched alcohol. You know, some brothers will share they haven't touched the marijuana. I haven't smoked a blunt in 2 weeks. I'd have never been able to do this, you know, like if it wasn't for this circle. I'm motivated. I see other brothers on the road and they're sharing their victories on this sobriety journey, you know, and it's love. And it's just a reminder that to ensure the safety and security of our people, of our indigenous communities and nations, displaced, detribalized, sobriety is important, man. Sobriety is important, you know. You want to be alert, you know, you want to be, it's your sixth sense is how I see it, you know. Sobriety is your sixth sense, so it's important. We share a lot of that in the circle.
That's beautiful. That's yeah, I appreciate that you're doing that. We need more programs for our youth. We need to, and that are outside of whiteness. Yeah. And just like instilling that young.
It's not religious either. Yeah. To your point, it's not Christian or Catholic. So you know, a lot of times when you get these sobriety programs, they're pushed through a very church, Catholic or Christian, whatever kind of way, and you know that pushes some people away. You know. But this, a lot of brothers are like happy. Oh wow, like at least the ones that have indigenous heritage are like, oh wow, I didn't know about this. Thank you for sharing this with us. I've never sat around an altar. Like this is dope, you know. And it brings a lot of love back to them.
Yeah. So I think that's a great time for this. I brought this gift for you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Here you go. All right.
Appreciate it, my brother.
And my mother-in-law helped me put it together. And actually, that's a vulture feather.
Oh, bet. Okay.
So today's date is 10 vulture.
10 vulture. Okay.
So the number 10, it's when your traumas or whatever's beneath the surface, ancestral traumas or whatever needs to be brought to the surface. On the number 10, it brings it to the surface. It brings it to the physical realm. And then the vulture and the condor, right? The condor is a vulture. Well, I usually have my condor hat on. So.
That's right, okay. Yeah. You're pointing at the feather, so you're good.
All right.
Yeah, you're pointing at the feather the whole time.
Well, the condor is a vulture.
Okay.
And what the vulture does is the vulture will come and it eats the bacteria, it eats the worms, it eats all the dead meat. So the 10 is bringing to the surface what needs to be cleansed, and the vulture is eating away all of the bad sickness. That's what's happening today on the day of the 10 vulture. And it just further symbolizing the condor, the eagle of the condor. So that's a vulture, and there's some medicine in there for you.
Appreciate you, man.